do pencil drawing. So just get your regular paper. You don't need to use the thicker one. You can use the basically any kind of a paper that you have or that you use for printing. And we're gonna use, you can use either pencil or charcoal or both. I suggest in the beginning we use pencil just so we can erase quickly. Okay. Sorry, I'm just gonna try to get the picture. Just 1 second.
I know.
We're gonna paint a still life or a picture of a still life. A still life, I don't know if you're familiar, it's usually fruits or a vase or a jug. So let me get the picture here. So we're gonna draw this picture right here. So you can take a picture.
你们可以拍一个相片，今天画的是这个东西。
So today we're gonna do just the drawing, but if you like the picture and you want to redo it again in paint and color, of course, that will be a very nice painting as well. With all the nice colors that we see. I'll wait a few more seconds so you can take your picture. So when you're looking at the picture, try to look at the proportions. So how big is that pear compared to the jug and all that stuff we have mentioned before. Okay, so let's get started. I'm not gonna use my entire page. I'll just section it off.
Silvana, can you put the picture in again? I wasn't able to take a picture yet. I was slow.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
So when you look at the picture, sorry, I'm just gonna. Okay, so when you look at your drawing, the first thing that is important for us to do is imagine how big the entire picture will be on our page. Because a lot of the times we start with a pear and maybe we do the pear so big, we do the pear so big that we don't have space left for the rest of the drawing. Okay, I think everyone has their pictures now. Let me just make sure, yeah. So the first thing I'm going to do is, you don't have to draw it, but I will. So I will make a little bit of a square just to indicate where I am going to be drawing. So here and here. So that's my square. Just gonna make a line here. I'm not gonna draw past that. And when I look at the picture, I try to look or to see what's right in the middle. So if I were to draw an X like this, one line here and one line here, the middle would be right here. So kind of the middle of the vase and the top of the pear. So I'm gonna make that indication on my paper. So just a little dot wherever I think the middle is. And I like to check that it's actually in the middle. So maybe a little bit more to my left. So that's the center. And now I'm gonna start with the big shapes like we've always done. Actually 1, 2, 3, sorry, actually before I do the big shapes, I wanna divide my drawing into sections so I get better proportions. So if I imagine 4 horizontal lines, it would give me the table, the pear, the vase, and the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, roughly. So I'm gonna imagine that or make a little bit of an indication. So after I had my first dot here, I can just divide this space in the middle and the bottom. So this is the end of my drawing. So this space also divided in the middle. These are just rough indications for me to get better proportions. So again, I put a dot in the center. The top half I divided into 2, the bottom half into 2. And now I'm gonna start with the big shapes. So I know that the pear starts on the left and the top reaches this middle point. So I'm just gonna make a round, like a circle, indicating that. I make an indication here, just a line where my table is. So I divided this bottom section into 2. You see my dot? I drew the table just underneath, just a little bit. I just make a line, and you see how I'm holding the pencil. At this point, if I hold it like this and draw like this, I put too much pressure and I don't have enough movement. So I want to hold it at the back, and I don't move my wrist, I move my entire arm. So my lines are better. So I'm just making this here. I'm just gonna write it here so you know. So the table goes here. The center, that's the pear. Okay, so now that I have this table here, it's easier for me to imagine where the pear would be. At this point, let's just do a circle here. Doesn't have to be perfect. And we've done circles before. You move your entire shoulder, very little pressure, and you just keep going. Doesn't have to be perfect because the pear is not perfect. And I can make another circle, smaller circle right here. Actually, it's a little bit lower, so the top should be here. Sorry, I'm gonna erase a little bit. Just gonna keep going, and then after I'm done the big shapes, I'll give you some time to catch up, so you have a better idea of what you wanna do first. So again, these are just the I'm just blocking the big shapes. So if you look at your picture, if you squint down or if you squint your eyes, so it looks a little bit blurry, try to think, what big shapes do I see? So I see a big circle right here. That's the pear. And then also I see kind of a cone that starts here all the way maybe here. And I'm just measuring the base of the vase just to see how tall it is. So in my picture, it's almost twice as tall as it is wide. So I'm just gonna make a little line here. And my line goes inwards here. Remember, these are just the basic shapes. We'll put more detail or fix the lines later on. The left line is, I think, is a little bit straighter. So I'm gonna make an indication. This is my vase. Look at the picture you took and try to see if your proportions are correct. And there's the ear here. It goes down and then it touches the pear here, the fruit. So try to look at the picture and try to see if the size of, for example, is the size of the pear, is it too big compared to your vase? So I'm gonna check that now. And so my vase is half, so from here to here is half of this, or the length of my pear. So I just take this measurement and make sure I have twice this size, which I do. So I'm gonna repeat that again. From this point until the end of your pears or your fruit right here, if you take only half of this amount, it would be the same as here till where your vase ends here. So that's my proportion. The fruit is twice as big as this space. So if you have it maybe a bit more, maybe your vase needs to be a little bit more to the left. It won't be wrong. It will look okay. It would still look good if the base is maybe wider or things like that. But today we're gonna try to focus on drawing what we see, not what we imagine, because that will really make a difference on your drawing skills. Sometimes we tend to imagine how we think things are and end up missing details. So now I'm going to draw the grapes. Just circles, so there is one over here and a few hidden behind here. And there is one, I think, over here. Actually, that is too small. I'm gonna erase that one. And I drew it too high. So if I look at the picture, the ear goes all the way here and the grapes are actually lower. Very close to the pear over here. So you also want to capture that, the distance between the objects. I'm just gonna finish the grapes and then I'll give you a little bit of time to finish off. And try to think which grapes are in front, which ones are at the back. Okay. And some parts of our vase will be erased as they are covered by the grapes. I think this has to be a little bit lower here. So a really good practice, if you have a little bit of a free time and would like to improve your drawing skills, is just grab any object in your house. It could be a plant, fruits, anything like that. Put it in front of you. Try to draw exactly what you see. I think those are my basic shapes. So after I'm done with this, I'll just give you some time to catch up. And now the next step I am going to do, just gonna put the picture right here, is I'm gonna fix my shapes. So now I have the big blocks. I'm gonna erase what I don't need, and I'm gonna draw with a little bit more pressure what I do need, or for the shapes with a little bit more detail. So I'm gonna start with a pear here. It's not perfectly round. So now I noticed that the table, there are two lines on the table. One is the back, so I'm gonna draw that line here. There is the back of the table. And then the very front. So if this is where my vase and everything is touching the table, I go down a little bit, and that's the like the front edge of my table. I'm gonna repeat that in just 1 second. So I look at where my fruit and my objects are touching the table, and if you look at the picture, there is a line between this edge and this line, which is the table. So I am here, I go down a little bit, and that's where I draw a straight line. And at the back, just around here, behind these grapes. So now I'm just gonna connect my two circles and a little bit more of a straight line right here. And over here too, just kind of flatten that line. And I draw a little dark circle here and the stem, which goes all the way up to the edge. So make sure you're erasing the lines that you don't need and basically just drawing the object again, but with better lines, more straight and defined lines. Now I'm gonna draw this very straight line. If you're having trouble going down very straight, you can do short little strokes like this, like a circle. Like when we do the circle, we just go over, back and forth, and then erase what we don't need. So where your grapes are, that's where we erase the vase. So that's my vase. And the next thing would be the grapes. And after we have a nice outline, we'll start filling the shadows. Always go back to your reference photo, because just because I did this circle like this the second time, I still check my picture to make sure it's actually the same shape, or if I need to make it rounder. So here I drew the first time like an oval, not a perfect circle, but when I look at the picture, this grape looks like a perfect circle, so I'm gonna fix that. So on the second step that we're doing right now, going over with more defined lines, make sure you are always double checking that the first lines you made were actually correct. And that is my outline. I'll wait for you to finish this, and then we'll go with shading. Amor, baby. Amor. So I'll give you another minute to finish. For shading, if you have charcoal, you can use it. It's with charcoal is a bit faster. I'll do both so I can show you. If you have pencils, we can also do pencils. If you only have one, pencil, you can still do the entire drawing. So if you're only using the one pencil, anytime you want to do dark areas, you're gonna put a lot of pressure to make it very dark. Then for the mid areas, we use less pressure. And the lighter we want it to be, we use less and less pressure. So if you look here, I'm gonna bring my camera closer. For the very light dot, if you look closely, I did more like lines, and I left spaces in between the lines because I can do very close lines too, then a little bit farther apart, then farther apart, and then farther apart. That to the eye will look darker and then lighter. So if you're using just one pencil, that's how you get darker and lighter areas. If you have a set with more type of pencil, I usually start my shadows with a 2B or B, and then after I go darker. So the higher the number for the B is darker. Right now I'm using an HB. For the very light areas, I use H. So I'm gonna get started. You can wait a few minutes until I get the first things done. I think I'm gonna start with a B. Yeah, just a B, and I'm gonna try to do the mid areas. So I'm not gonna do the darkest areas yet. I want to go maybe this. So I'm gonna number it 1 for the light areas, 2 for the mid areas, and 3 for the dark areas. So I'm gonna start with the 2. What you can do is draw the shape of the shadow. So I'm drawing this area over here so I know which area to cover. And I usually just start doing, you can do left to right or circles. Just make sure your pencil is quite sharpened. Just back and forth. It's better to put less pressure and do more layers than one layer being quite dark. And even within the same area, I see some dot spots are tiny bit darker, so I go over those spots once more. If you're using charcoal, I went over that last time we used charcoal, but I'll do it very quick. So with charcoal, I like to use a little bit of paper towel like this. And I put the charcoal on the side. This is how I like to do it because I find that I have more control. So on another piece of paper, I just do a big square area, and then you can use a Q-tip or just a little bit of a paper towel like this. I just grab it and then put it on my piece. So I'm gonna do the table here. And then I load it again. It's like I use charcoal just like when I paint. And you just do more layers if you want a darker piece. You can also use a brush, a dry brush that you're only going to use for charcoal, because it stays quite dark or dirty. So just leave the one brush you have for charcoal, always for charcoal. I do like charcoal a lot. This you can also do with pencil. So if I have here my color or my shaded area, I can grab, I'm gonna grab a new piece of paper towel, and then I just blend this in. So this is just to show you, we're gonna do that at the very end. So you can keep going with charcoal or pencil. So let's continue with our color or shade number 2. So remember, light is 1, 2 is mid-tones, 3 is very dark. Right now we're only doing the 2s. So look on the picture. Where do you find that it's a number 2? So most of the grapes are number 2. Some have a little bit of number 3. So let's do the number 2 on the grapes. So I'm gonna start here. If you find that it can get confusing, or if it's looking too confusing, you can even do the number 3 or the very dark areas. So for example, here at the bottom of this one, it's darker, so number 3. So I can go ahead. It's up to you. Or you can just go with number 2 for the entire drawing and then go back to number 3 for the entire drawing. So you see that I'm not coloring the entire grape, because if you look at the picture, only this area is a number 2. Here is just pure white, so you don't want to cover that area. Only do what you see on the picture. Remember not to imagine things, because that's usually when we make not mistakes, but when things start to look different. I'm gonna keep going so you can see what you want to end up with, but you can take your time. So I think I'm done with the grapes with the number 2. I'm gonna go then with number 3 for the fruits. So for number 3, again, if you're using just one pencil, just do a little bit more pressure with your hand. It will look darker. If you have more pencils, I'm gonna go with the number 4, just any number, but just higher than the one you were using before. Make sure it's sharpened. If it's like this, sometimes we tend to use it until we need to sharpen it again. Whenever you're shading stuff, it's always better if your tip is quite sharp like this. So I'm gonna go with the darkest areas. Be careful anytime you're drawing with pencil. I remember at the beginning, I will go back here and my hand will get all dirty here, and then I would move to another place, and then this that was supposed to be white will get dark because of what's left on my hand. So what you can do is either put a paper towel or another piece of paper under your hand. So make sure you are not rubbing things. I'm not going to right now, so you can see the drawing. So I'm gonna go with the very dark areas. And if you look at the picture and it's pitch black, don't be afraid to draw it with a lot of pressure. And so after I do my very number 3, this is my number 3, and this is my number 2, I want to do like a shade that is in between the two. So I already colored this area with my number 2. So I just go over it again. So it looks like it's blending or a little bit more of a transition. So not too much pressure on it. I just go over it. I'm gonna do a few with charcoal. For those of you who are using charcoal, so again, I have my scrap paper where I put, if actually we're doing the very dark areas, you can directly draw with the charcoal right here. And then you can blend it after. So I'm doing both. So sometimes when I put charcoal on top of where I put pencil first, it doesn't really stick, but I'll just try the pair here. So if you're using charcoal for your very dark areas, you can use it directly or shade it directly with the charcoal. As I go higher, I put less pressure and I leave a little bit of spaces in between my lines. And then you can use, again, a little bit of paper. I keep this brush for charcoal only and just start blending. And with my paper towel, I just blend it. I will go back to pencil. Oh, I forgot to. So with charcoal, your darks will look deeper and darker. So again, I was using a 4B and I'm doing the darks here. Always look at the picture to see how dark they are, like your darks are. And you can go back and forth. So I'm going back to the B just to cover a little bit more of this grape. So I'm going back to number 2. So it's just a matter of going back and forth. So the bottom of the grapes will be the darkest. Top right is the lightest. Make sure you leave a little bit of white, or yeah, a white space on the grapes, because that's the highlight. Those are my grapes, and I can go back with either a Q-tip, rolled paper towel, or sometimes your finger, but make sure you don't put your fingerprints on other places after. And I can blend. Very careful not to go over the white space. You don't need to blend too much, but sometimes it's easier if your lines are too harsh. If you accidentally go over a darks, for example, here, I didn't leave a white space at the top. So that's that grape. This is this grape. I didn't leave this white highlight. So you go back with your eraser. If you have this one, you make it into a pointy end and just erase it. So the fruits were the darkest areas of our drawing. So I've actually forgot the stem of the pear, so let's do that. So right here is very dark around the base of the stem. And this one is a little bit dark, but okay. So I'm just going with my brush. You can do this with the paper towel. I think I'm gonna fix this edge right here. Okay, so now I want to do the table. So I want to make sure there I show the dark shadows. So this is under the pear, just a little bit of a shadow over here, and it extends this way. And I color that. A very tiny one under this grape and under these as well. And I also I want to take my eraser and do a little bit of a highlight on the pear coming down here. So very gently get this area a little bit lighter. Because there is a shade coming from the pear onto the base right here, and that's dark. I'm gonna start with the vase now. You can take your time catching up. I just wanna go a few steps ahead of you so you know what you wanna end up with. So here below the grapes, they're casting a shadow. If you're not too sure how dark we should make it, start with medium pressure on your pencil, and then we can put more layers after. So here it's the here, so under the edge of the grape, there is a white space here at the top, so I don't want to cover that. Make sure you leave that white space. And look at the picture and look at here inside the start of the ear of the vase, some areas are darker. So here underneath, it's even darker. And then it stops being underneath and it switches to the left side. So try to do exactly as you see. And here at the top, it's a little bit darker. And as I move to the right, I am starting to apply less and less pressure. I'm gonna even switch back. So I was using a 4B. I'm switching back to just a B. And even less pressure now. Always looking at my reference photo. And I'm gonna take my paper and blend this area here. I'm now switching back to my very first pencil, my HB, and I'm gonna do a line here under the edge. I'm gonna leave that space white, and then underneath I do a little bit of shading. Just very little, and then go over it with your paper towel. And don't only do the areas that you colored, but you can drag it over to the right side. So basically, I'm just putting the color on the top on the left side, but with my paper towel, even though I have not colored this area, I'm able to drag the graphite over to that area. Make sure the left side remains a little bit darker. And I'm gonna go back with my eraser, and I'm gonna put or just draw the edge of my fruit here with my eraser. So I'm using the eraser as a pencil. So I'm gonna repeat that. I'm using the edge of my eraser to draw this line here, which is the edge of the pear. I am going to take, my eraser, and I'm gonna go over this edge here because it's too dark right now. Want it lighter. I'm gonna take an H or the lightest pencil I have. I'm gonna draw the lines that the vase has. Very soft lines. And more than lines, they're kind of very long triangles. So here on the left side, they're thicker. The line is thicker. As I go right, it's thinner. So first I drew the lines. Now I'm drawing a little triangle on the left side of the line. And I'm gonna, now that I finished my vase, I need to do this stem here. I haven't really touched. So the left side is darker. I'm gonna make this darker. So like always, remember to take a second to stop and step back, look at your picture, look and try to see what needs to be darker, what needs to be lighter. The background here on our picture is darker. So when I look at the vase, it looks very light versus when I look at my picture. So ideally we would color the background, but that will take us too long. Maybe if you want to, you can leave it like that or do the background at the end. I think I'll do it just quickly with charcoal so we see a little bit of a difference, but you don't have to do it. I'll let you catch up with the vase and with the entire drawing as I do the background, and then we will do the highlights and then we are done. So I'm just gonna quickly do the background. Or at least the background around the objects here. So I think if I were to do a bit more detail, I would make the background darker. But right now it's just so we can do the highlights and they pop. Okay, so now the next step is my favorite step, usually when I'm drawing, and it's the highlights. It brings it all together. So I'm gonna take my eraser, make a pointy end, and I'm gonna look on my picture and try to see where do I see pure white. So for sure the top of the highlights on the grapes, I'm gonna do this line here, this line here, these dots here, the grapes, and a little bit of the pear here and there. So if you have this, you can use this. If you have a pointy end like this, you can also do it. So let's get started. Let's start with the grapes. Make sure you erase it quite well. And not only the grapes, but for example, this here. Wherever you see white. Definitely the edge of the vase right here. So if you are not sure if your drawing looks different and you're not sure why, maybe it's because your darks, mediums, and lights are too similar. So make sure you do your darks very dark. So if you look at the picture, maybe my pear could be darker. I'll usually go back and forth, but right now we'll just finish the highlights. Here, just do short lines going down the middle. And maybe the edge of the vase, you will draw with your eraser. And a little bit of the stem here has highlights. What else? Maybe the edge here. We are almost done. Maybe let's spend the next 2 to 3 minutes just going back and forth. So what I mean by that is I'll go back to the darks, make them darker, go back to the highlights, make them lighter, and so on. There is a very dark shape or shadow right under the pear. So I'm making the darkest area of my pear dark. Turn a little shadow here. You don't need to blend every time. In fact, the less you blend, the better. But I remember when I started drawing, blending makes it easier. and then you just go back with darks again, because when you blend, you lose your darkest darks, and also you darken your highlights. You see, I blended this and now they all look very similar. I don't want that. I want to make sure I see the difference. So the one that is at the back is a little darker. And then here at the front, just at the bottom. This stem here is actually lighter. So I'm gonna draw highlights. Here under the pear is darker. The line that touches the table is very dark. Maybe here, also darker. Under this ear here, it's quite dark. Remember, it's dark at the bottom here. And then as you move here, it transfers to the left side. And I'm gonna draw with my eraser here. And at the top of the pear, so if you look at the picture, so we have a line there because that's how we drew the shape. But if you look at the picture, the pear at the top, you don't see a line. You just see a white space and then the background is darker. So we are going to do that. We're going to erase that line for the pear. And if you think you're done, step back, look at the entire picture. And I think we are done. So you can finish off. Always sign. So I'm gonna sign it right here. Always put at least a year or the entire date if you want. That is our still life.